.38, the same color as the Chevrolet. Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, VALTORIOUS the Awoken. Now, tonight's review is going to be about Death Note. Now, there's going to be some spoilers for that many people who haven't watched Death Note or, haven't really watched it, because I'm doing this review for the people who haven't watched Death Note. And for the people who have watched Death Note, so so it's just gonna be some spoilers, people who have or who have not watched Death Note. So basically, Death Note basically starts about this kid named Light Yagami, right? So Light Yagami is a 17-year-old high schooler who goes to school, and basically, he's kind of like bored with his life, because he's like, well, I'm smart. I help out my father in cases during the time, and and I kind of hate how life is right now. So next thing you know, he walks outside of his school, and the book suddenly just drops down. It's like, what is this, Death Note? It's like, man, it's a joke. Goes home one night. He goes home one day, and then he just he picks it up, and then he sees like the Shinigami there, and then he's like, oh my god, Ryuk. And then he was like, he just he starts flipping out, like that and stuff. So that's when Ryuk's like, I'm a Shinigami, god of death, stuff like that. And next thing he's like, oh wow, you're this, you're that and stuff. So he's like, yeah, it's true, all of it's true. So once when he started getting into it, he was addicted, putting people's names in there, and at the time he was doing the right thing of killing bad people because he wanted to become the god of the new world. That's when the whole I am Kira crap started to come in. Now fast forward through story, later in the story where he meets L is like this very special detective type guy who solved multiple amount of cases, but his face remained hidden, he did everything from a computer and stuff, until he decided to come out and stuff, and was like, well, now I am going to figure out who is truly Kira and stuff. But then see, the premise of this entire story, it was great, but I just didn't like how it was moving at a faster pace, where it was like, okay, they started suspect, L started to suspect Light was like, well, I think you're Kira and stuff, but it's like, how? Literally, how? They literally had in the story, they literally had L basically plant cameras through the Light's father's house, making sure keeping tabs on everything. So I was like, what? Okay, I understand, because it was well, maybe that at a time whoever's writing these names in this book could be coming from a detective or from the inside. So it was well, they did that, and next thing Light basically was like, well, let me pull on a little porno magazine. And that's when his father was like, oh my god, Light, I didn't know you was into that stuff like that. And L was like, I don't know, I think this is a lie, I don't know. But I mean, he was a very good detective, solving crime and mystery. I truly believe that he was good at what he did, but I just didn't like how things was moving at a fast pace and stuff, because how he detected. Now, before I even get further into L, Light was almost discovered by two people to have known, well, whoever's writing these names in the Death Note must be a high schooler or somebody. So he killed this chick's husband. He wrote his name into the book, because I guess at the last second he finally figured out who he was, and then by the time he turned back, he was dead. And then when he met the woman of that said her late husband and stuff. And then that's when he was like, oh, like, you know, your name is this and that. So she basically gave him like a fake name, so he wrote the name in the death note and nothing happened. So so he was getting more and more and more information out of her and stuff, like like yeah, like that, until she finally told him his name. And then that's when he was like, so yeah, you know, you're gonna probably be dead soon. She's like, what? And that's when he looked at her and stuff, and she was like, that's what she knew. But then it was crazy because it was that one detective that walked past them in the rain. He could have, it would have been all over for Light. It would have been all over for Light because he walked past them and stuff. Now, if he would have looked at him like, oh, like, and then been like, you was the last person that talked to her. She's dead now. So, like, but you know, things didn't go down that way. Light basically killed her. Then later on, that's when he started to like stray from his path because he met Misa, and that's when Misa was like, well, I have a thing for Kira. Then he's like, well, you know, we both gonna be the god of the new world. You work with me, I can get this to happen, blah 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 and stuff. And next thing you know, that's when she agreed with him. She went with him, and she was like, yeah, you know, because she had the power to see people's lifespans, but in doing so, you sacrifice like a portion of your lifespan in order for you to gain Shinigami eyes. So that was kind of crazy though, because she was able to see everything and stuff. So they was working together, and then it just got so deep into the story where L was like, he was just suspecting him, like, you know, he's definitely Kira, I know it. And too, that's when Light devised like a very, very smart plan to just like have their memories like erased for a while, and giving like the death notes to like other people, because it looks like L was kind of almost getting onto it until he was like, no, let me give the death note to other people, and then had those two incarcerated. Even though I was like, that was still going too far though. Like, I was like, really, you still think this though? But then after for a while, it was like, okay, so they're not them. And then he's like, L was so smart. He was just like, I still know there's something off, but I just can't put my finger onto it and stuff. But it was how it's how in the story they made him a little bit too smart, where it was like, okay, he just automatically knew. And I'm like, I just can't with that. Like, no, like, no, like, I don't care how crazy smart you are, there's no physical way. But you know, everything still kind of worked out until Light's favor, because he had used the Shimigami, Misa's Shimigami, to actually do his bidding, because in the story where I believe she was explaining that it was a Shimigami, I think Jakin, who was in love or fascinated with a human, and when that human was about to be raped, I believe, or killed, that's when he wrote his name in a death note. But in doing so, he killed himself, because it's like, you can't save a human like that. That's against like supernatural Shimigami laws. Like, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to only write the person who's supposed to die, not the person you want to protect. So he killed himself, and then somehow Light used that to his advantage and was like, well, she strongly loved Misa, and he was like, well, I don't know, if we go down, hey, you know, I'm just gonna say whatever and stuff like that. But the way he cocked up that plan made her just write down who was L's real name and stuff. I think his name was Ryuga. I think something like that. I think his real name was Ryuga, I believe. But it made her write like his name down, and then VALTORIOUS name down as well and stuff. So both men died at the same time. Everybody was like freaking out, like, yo, where's the Shimigami at? Yo, what happened and stuff like that. And that's when you see Light standing over L, and he just smiling and cheesing. And I was like, yo, that's kind of crazy and stuff. And then his eyes faded, and then that's when several years later, that's when Light just started killing people. Like, it was messed up, because he was doing the right reasons, but then he started, again, like I said, he was straying from the path, and then he started killing good people as well. I mean, I understand, just to keep your name and your secret and stuff, so that way not that many people have gotten close to who you truly was. that's when he started to work up in the ranks. And then Nier came along, because everybody who was special, they come from like this I guess this institution, this very special institution or orphanage or whatever, for I guess gifted kids or whatever, or something like that. But yeah, Nier came along, and that's when Nier was like, okay, because all of L's files kind of like went over there and was like, well, this is what we was doing, because L said that if anything ever happened to him, he was like, Light Yagami is Kira, like that. And that's when the father was like, no, that can't be, like, stop, that's not my son, like, you what are you talking about? But then Nier came along after when L's death, like years later, was like, well, he started working on a plan, figure stuff out and stuff. But in the story, in the story, Light was getting too cocky. He was getting too cocky, where because he had like a new guy named Teru Mikami, and Mikami basically had the Shinigami eyes, and he had Mikami just write and be like another Kira, and then was writing people's names and literally almost in broad daylight, because he did it on the train. But see, he was being cocky. He wasn't being slick or smooth with it. He was just being cocky, and then that cockiness at the end just. Oh my god, at the end it was just like, well, time's up, this and that and stuff. And then what happened? It was like, oh, nobody died. And then Nier was just so like ahead of him, because he was like, I knew we switched death notes, we took Teru's and stuff like that. And then how Teru died, basically Nier wrote his name in the death note, because when people was flipping out like what happened and stuff, just to clarify any sort of misdoubts, Nier was the one who wrote his name in the death note. So that's how Teru was like, he caught a heart attack and stuff. He was like, ooh, like that and stuff. Because I was too, because when I was watching, I said, wait, what happened? Like, there's no way he just caught a, no, because Nier was interested. He used the death note, he killed him and stuff. So that's when like Light was like trying to back out, like, no, I'm not kidding, what you talking about, I'm not kidding. He said, yes you are, you just said it, you just, no, I didn't say that. Oh, and that's when like this dude, I forgot his name, and then the other guy, I forgot his name as well, it's been so freaking long. He was like, well, it's time to go. And that's when he was like, no, you can't do this to me. He said he had the handcuffs and everything. And he tried to write his name down. That's when this dude shot him. He's like, what are you doing? What are you doing like that? He said, I couldn't believe you. He said, if your father was here, he said, that's when like Light was just bugging out. He was like, my father was a fool, this and that and stuff. I was like, oh, it's over for you. And then somehow he managed to like escape and stuff. So he managed to escape, and then it was already too late, because he was running. That's when his life flashed before his eyes and stuff. He seen his past self walk like with the death note in his hand. He was like, oh my god. And that's when he went to like this factory, was on top of some stairs. That's when you see our boy Ryuk. He was like, yo, it's been fun, but it's your time now. And that's when he wrote his name in the death note. And then he seen he seen L just standing there and stuff. But it was like, he was dead, It was great. It was so great. This anime was so good. It was so great and stuff. Like the premise, it makes sense, because you have this kid who's first doing stuff for the right reasons, but then he got addicted, and that's when he started killing good people just to protect his name. And then after when he did all of that, he was trying to back out of it and was like, well, at the end, I'm not Kira. But then you like, well, I'm Kira, like that. Then you start laughing, thinking, well, Teru, you can still wiggle your way out of something. Poor Teru couldn't figure anything out. Teru was just looking at him like, what happened? God, what happened? But in the manga, it was like a few years after Kira's death, and there was like this cult and this girl, and they were saying, oh, praise Kira or something like that. So I don't know if it looks like they was going to continue with something, because in the manga, I believe it was in the manga, I am not too sure, that there was this eraser that can erase people's, like, if you died or whatever, like, you can use this eraser to erase the person's name off the death note and then they come back to life. I think that was in the manga. I think that was in the manga. I could be wrong. But I think that was referenced in the manga. I am not too sure about that. But yeah, Death Note was yo, Death Note was freaking doggone good though. That's why I said I encourage anybody to watch this. Now, if anybody who haven't watched this, um, you know, there's gonna be some spoilers in there. But I tried not to mention everything on how everything kind of like came about, because there is some parts to the story and to the manga that I didn't mention about how and everything led up to what it was supposed to be. So I may mention some good stuff, but I didn't mention like the parts that led up to stuff. So yeah, I rate this anime a hard 10, because seeing it the first time, I was in love. I was in love with this. Like, this was so good. This was so good because it was like, it makes sense. Like, you if you have the power of the Death Note and then you want to try to change the world and be like, well, I want to try to like maybe eliminate a lot of bad people, like who escaped the court system and was like, well, you killed 5 people. Now you think that it's all right for you to just go to jail for a little bit and then you get out off of parole. And it's like, no, you don't deserve that. You deserve more. So I enjoyed the premise of it, and I think that if having a Death Note would be great to just like wipe out maybe half the bad people. Don't be God or anything. Just like use it like once in a while. Take like maybe kill 50 people, and then make it fresh, live. Like all the bad people, like people who want to commit harm and others. Get rid of them all and stuff. And then those who's doing right, just leave them alone. Don't say you're God. Don't say this. Just leave it be and stuff. But that's why I said my only small problem with the manga and in the anime, it was a little bit too rushed. It was a little bit too rushed. Like, I understand that they wanted to get to the bigger picture, but to me, it just felt like it was a little tad bit rushed. But everything else was good. It was a hard 10. I encourage anyone who haven't checked it out, haven't even heard of it, just don't watch the Netflix one, because the Netflix one was shit. Do not watch the Netflix one. You can watch the live action Japanese one, because I heard that was good. And that was it. But just do not watch the Netflix one, because that shit was shit. So I am going to end this right here. So if you like what you heard what you like, please subscribe, share, do all that wonderful stuff. And I'll catch you later.